guys, welcome back. Thank you for coming back to part 3 of my story. I just want to say, if this is your first time coming to watching my video, you might want to start on part 1 so that the rest makes sense. So yeah, I will get straight back into it. So where I last left off, I'd just met my son for the first time. I'd found out that he didn't need oxygen anymore. He was 740 grams, £1.10, no oxygen. And I was just in awe of this human being because I couldn't believe he was so small but was able to breathe for himself. Like, I couldn't believe it. So moving forward, later on in the day, one of the nurses asked if I wanted to do his cares, and that made so much of a difference to me. Like, I felt like I was actually needed. His cares entailed just giving him a quick wash with a bit of cotton wool and just like swabbing his mouth with a bit of water, like boiled water, just so that, because he was tube fed, just so that his mouth had some like liquid in it so it wasn't too dry. And I was so happy about that. Like, I just felt like, yes, like I'm getting stuck in now. I'm finally a mum. Like, I'm feeling more like a mum because I'm actually doing what other mums do all the time for their baby. So that really helped me in a way, gave me a bit of a boost. They also asked if I wanted to change his nappy, and at first I was really nervous because he was really small, but I knew I had to just crack on with it because it was something that I needed to do. I've learned that hopefully I'll never go through that experience again, but if I was to ever, I'm just not going to fear as much. I'll just like embrace the moments and get stuck in as much as possible, because that really helped me to feel like I was a mum. So although I was hesitant at first, I did eventually like change his nappy. And I remember I used my little fingers to lift his legs up because his legs were so small. I got one of the nappies, actually, a little Pampers nappy. And it's hard. I can't remember him being this small at all. It's weird. Anyway, yeah, so after I've done that, I've got a chart here that they gave me. So I'll be looking down at the chart just to make reference to certain things in case I've forgotten when I did certain things. And it says here on the 12th of April, that was the first time I gave him skin to skin. So my son was born on the 10th, so it was 2 days after. They asked me if I wanted to hold him. Prior to that, I was like stroking him and just putting my hand on him and things like that. And the thought of holding him, I was like, he's so little, like I don't want to break him. And I'll always remember the nurse saying to me, they look a lot more delicate than they actually are. And that's so true, because when I was changing his nappy, sometimes when I'd want his leg to go back down, he had quite a lot of strength. So I did think, okay, yeah, you're right, I'm gonna do this. So the first time holding him, I just can't even explain it. Like, he was so little, like so little and so wriggly. I couldn't even put like my whole hand on my chest because he was just so little that he was just like all over the place. So it just felt really weird. It didn't feel like holding a baby. I was holding a baby. It was just kind of, I just didn't know where to put my hand. It was just very awkward, but an amazing experience, an amazing feeling. I've never felt anything like it. I usually, when I stroke babies' heads, I'll use all 4 of my fingers, but his head was so small, I used just 1 finger. And but it was an amazing feeling. I remember the nurse came and gave me a screen to make it a lot more private, and that really helped, because sometimes, like I'm sure all you women and men that are going through the same situation, you just want your privacy. You just want your time with your baby without having to make small talk with people. And do you know what I mean? Like keeping up appearances and stuff. You just want to be organic with your baby. And it's hard to do that when people are in view of you, if that makes sense. So I was really grateful for the screen. And yeah, so that first experience of skin to skin was absolutely amazing. In regards to feeding, the first few days he was on bottle milk because I was expressing, but my milk it took a few days for the milk to come. I was hard on myself during that time, and I was feeling like, well, why is my milk not coming? Like, he needs the best from me. I was really stressing myself out. But if I was to look back and give myself advice, I would say don't stress out. Like, it's out of your control. As long as you're trying, that's all you can do. The milk will come eventually. I know the nurses kept saying that, but in my head I was just like, it's just not coming quick enough. But it came within like a few days, and he was on something like 1 ml an hour or something like that. They were controlling all the feeds and stuff during in that hospital, so I wasn't really involved in any of the feeds. It was just basically skin to skin. That's all I could really do. Because he wasn't on any oxygen, it was a lot easier for me to like give him skin to skin and stuff, because there was not as many wires, and it was just like a lot more. I get, well, just a lot less like I wouldn't have to be as careful like with the wires and things like that. So during that time it was great. Like, it was really nice. It's such a nice experience. The hospital staff were absolutely amazing, but I knew that because the hospital was far away from my house, I would have to get transferred eventually. I was there for 8 days, and then I found out that I was going back to Leeds, to near where I live. And I was happy and sad at the same time. I was really anxious because it was a new hospital, new staff I'd have to get used to, and things like that. I'd got used to some of the parents and things like that. But then I thought, well, it's for the best, so I had to do it. I spoke to one of the parents, and she had her son at 23 weeks. He was 4 months old during that time. But I remember her saying that when he was transferred to that hospital, there was a lot of trauma during the journey, and that made me feel really, really anxious because it was a 2.5 hour journey. So I spoke to the doctor, and the way the doctor looked at me was like, you've got nothing to worry about. And he did actually say, you've got nothing to worry about. I was scared because he wasn't on any oxygen, but he made me feel a lot better about that journey. So during the journey, he was fine. He was absolutely fine. Numbers were sky high. He was relaxed. He was just chilling in his little incubator. And I just could not believe, like, this tiny human is breathing for himself and able to go on a 2.5 hour journey. I was just so shocked. Anyway, when we finally arrived at the hospital, we were in isolation because we'd gone from one hospital to another. So we were just in like a room, and once it got settled and everything, I went back home. I went home to have a shower, have something to eat, and then go back to the hospital. When I got back to the hospital, he was in a vest. And this made so much difference to the way, like, I just felt so much happier. I felt like he looked like a human. I know that might sound a bit odd, but to me, I was just like, he actually looks like a baby. Like, he looks like a real baby, because in the last hospital, he was just in a nappy, and it was just, it was quite sad to see because you could really see how small he was. But with the vest, it made a difference to me. It made me feel so much better. It made me feel like I've got a normal baby. I know that probably sounds odd to some people, but it really did mean a lot to me to see him in a vest, and I was just so happy. So moving forward just a little bit, after everything was okay, we were back in the normal ward. And I took for granted the fact that he wasn't on oxygen. Like, in this hospital, they were a lot more lenient in regards to how many times you could give skin to skin. They also, with feeds and stuff, they showed me how to feed, so I was able to feed, and I thought that was absolutely amazing. I think every mum and dad should be encouraged to tube feed their baby, because it really makes you feel involved. It makes you feel like a parent. Well, that's how it made me feel. Definitely made a difference. So yeah, with the skin to skin, I was able to just, like I said, just take him out of his incubator really easily because he didn't have any oxygen and stuff. And then I remember one day I was sitting with him and all of a sudden his machine went off, and his machine never goes off. Like, it never used to go off. So that was a shock. I was so scared at that point. I put him straight back in his incubator and I was just stressing myself out. The nurse did look a little bit concerned, but his numbers did go back up again, so I was okay for a while. And then there was a period where the oxygen levels would just keep decreasing, they keep decreasing for a while. So I got told that he had to be on oxygen at that point. So I'm going to leave part 3 there. Thank you so much for listening. And remember to like and subscribe if you like what you hear. I will upload part 4 soon. And thank you so much again. And please stay safe. Thank you. Thanks.